the smallest offensive lineman on the Philadelphia Eagles might be the most violent of them. I get the nature of this image here of the size difference, but just look at the way he gets under his pads and drives people, man. This dude is playing at a tremendous level for his size. The analytics tell us that a player of Willie Lampkin's stature should not work at the NFL level. But the Philadelphia Eagles scouting department and the tape, to be fair, well, that says something completely different. On this play right here, you have Willie Lampkin line up as a left guard. And across from him, in a 2-eye, shaded a little bit, is 6'2", 318-pound, dang near 320 pounds, over 33-inch arm reach and over 10.25-inch hand size, interior defensive lineman out of the University of Illinois, Denzel Daxon. This is not what you would typically see in the NFL. There's a big difference between these two guys, but this just illustrates just how strong and powerful this guy is as a sub-6 foot, sub-290 pound interior offensive lineman who can play center or left guard or, going back to his college days, right guard. Essentially what I'm telling you is Willie Lampkin, he isn't supposed to make this football team. And yet, something tells me there's a pretty good chance he just might find his way onto the active 53-man roster.
What's your impression of Willie Lampkin?
Willie's been killing it. You know, every day we've got a team meeting after practice, and there's always good effort clips, and Willie's all the time. He's on these good effort clips, and he's playing his ass off, and I'm super happy for him.
Essentially what I'm telling you is Willie Lampkin isn't supposed to make his way onto this football team. And yet, I still can't help but feel excited to watch him put pads on and play in his first preseason game as a Philadelphia Eagle.
Willie Lampkin's also kind of cross-training at both spots. What do you see from Willie?
Willie's a beast. Willie's great. He's fun to work with, too. Like, he's a great guy, brings a lot of energy. So he's been fun, it's been fun to kind of do that with him together. But I think he's having a great camp.
Have you seen there's no other way to ask this question. Have you seen a guy that small in that position since you've been in high school?
I don't know. I don't want to say anything
not
crazy.
in a bad way. I mean, like it's kind of impressive that
it's very impressive. We've said it in the room before. Like, it doesn't matter what it looks like. Like, it's how you do it. Like, if you get the job done or not. So, like, it doesn't matter. I mean, sometimes if you have technique, get the job done, you're like, all right, I got lucky. But yeah, like you said, it doesn't really matter what it looks like, and I feel like that kind of plays into his hands. He's got great leverage, natural leverage, as we like to say, and gets underneath those pads and can uproot some people.
And after reading all the reports over the last, 7, 8, 9 days about Willie Lampkin coming out of the Philadelphia Eagles training camp, I think there's an outside chance that this guy might work his way onto the actual active 53-man roster. He might make the initial cut. I think there's an actual 50-50 probability of this right now. However, I don't think it's necessarily for the reasons that people are suspecting.
So I read this as very good signal for Willie Lampkin. I think he has looked good. I think there's a real chance he'll make the team. But he got beat on one rep today. And it was in O-line, D-line, 2-on-2s. And he got a little bit manhandled. And this is the argument against Willie Lampkin, who is so much stronger than you would imagine him to be.
Absolutely.
I'll take you through the one-on reps later. He did a very good job. But he got pushed back into the pocket, like walked back 6 or 7 steps by Uar Bernard.
Yeah.
The very first time I have seen that kind of flash from Uar. So that was great to see.
All right, y'all. Let's talk some Willie Lampkin and Philadelphia Eagles football. So, as I was kind of going through and I was reading the reports about Willie Lampkin, the first thing that stood out to me is there's kind of this little known fact about Willie Lampkin coming out of his college days to when he was playing at the University of North Carolina. And when he was at the University of North Carolina, what a lot of people don't realize is that Willie Lampkin wasn't necessarily playing center for the Tar Heels. He was actually playing as a right guard, which kind of leads me into what I'm hearing coming out of camp, which is the fact that, yes, Willie Lampkin is taking some snaps as a center. Sure, you can find that evidence there. However, I think the bigger reports that are coming out is the fact that he's taking some snaps at left guard and right guard, and he doesn't look overwhelmed. He doesn't look mismatched. He's not losing reps the way that you would think a dude that's sub 6 foot, sub 200, or we'll just say 300 pounds to be safe, guys. The way that you would suspect that kind of person to be losing reps on an NFL football field. This young man's kind of holding his own. Willie does have that background as a wrestler, and I do think that wrestling background is paying some dividends for him on the NFL field because, number one, he is normally going to be the lowest man at the center of gravity, to be quite honest, because I kind of gave off and said he was 5'11". Truth be told, I might be sizing him up a little bit, and he might be closer to 5'10". It doesn't matter. He's sub 6 foot, guys, and that's not something you see a lot in the NFL in terms of like your offensive linemen, even your defensive linemen. It's pretty rare. Of course, you get the occasional player who comes through and can play at a very high level as a sub 6 foot player inside the trenches, but it is kind of rare, guys. This is not something you see every day. The Eagles have some interesting decisions to make in terms of the interior offensive line, because you got a guy in Micah Morris that you spent a draft pick on who I think can actually displace people on the offensive line, can play physical, can play violent himself. And is, sized appropriately for an offensive guard. But nonetheless, this is still a day 3 pick, and they have to go earn their way onto the roster, right? They took a gamble. They rolled the dice on the guy coming out of Alabama and Jaden Roberts, who has, he's seen quite the level of competition himself. This is not a guy that's going to be completely overwhelmed at the NFL level. It's a matter of talent with Jaden Roberts, right? They went and signed the veteran guy, and they went and got Michael Jordan. Ironic name, I know, guys. Michael Jordan being the veteran guy that's got the most experience playing football out of any of our backups. It's not even close. Like, not even Big Fred comes close to his level of experience playing in the league. But I don't necessarily think that Michael Jordan is the most natural fit for what we want to do. Now, you can make some arguments around the wide zone and, things like that, outside zone, and the fact that he is athletic, and maybe that, he'll be a better fit for that in terms of the run game, to where the gap and the power and, inside zone and duo, he wasn't quite the greatest fit. Maybe he'll fit better there. You can make nuanced arguments there for sure. Then you have Miles Hinton, another big physical guy, 320-pounder plus. Another guy that's a bit of a displacer along the offensive line, but a guy that has traditionally been playing mostly as a tackle and is now trying to learn, his ropes as a, interior offensive lineman himself. I think when you look at that backup cast, and I'm not including Drew Kendall, guys, just because I think Drew Kendall is pretty much a lock to make the roster. He's going to probably be the main, backup along the interior offensive line. But I don't think it's ridiculous to say that a guy, can come in here and can steal a spot. I don't think it's far-fetched for, one of these more unheralded players like Willie Lampkin to do something that maybe teams aren't expecting. That, our fan base has been pretty high on Willie Lampkin since the day that we signed him from the Rams. We stole him when they put him on the waiver wire. But I will say that I think league-wide, this one would probably shock a few people. And I do think Willie Lampkin is an interesting guy because as a center, he makes a ton of sense for the system because athleticism matters a lot from your center inside the system. But I think the big surprise, the thing that maybe nobody saw coming, even though he had this time where he spent, in college at North Carolina playing right guard, I don't think a lot of people were projecting Willie Lampkin to potentially be a guy that could be your seventh or eighth man, potentially active for game days early, and be one of your main backup interior offensive linemen that you're depending upon to play a little left guard and right guard. I do think that's a little out of left field, if you will, just to use a baseball reference here, guys. That's coming out of nowhere a little bit. Like, this is not a guy that physically makes a ton of sense to do that, but somehow when you study his tape and you see what he's doing on the field, the young man is playing with the type of physicality you just don't expect from a guy of his size. And, at a certain point, I don't think you can look past it. I think at a certain point, they have to kind of acknowledge the type of player that he's showing you that he is, and you got to embrace it. And truth be told, I don't know that the Eagles have the luxury of affording throwaway players on the roster you know, because you have other young guys such as Willie Lampkin, such as Miles Hinton. I think you have to take the guys who truly earn the job, because none of these guys have like elite draft status to their name. They're all day 3 picks that were drafted. And then you got some UDFAs like Willie Lampkin. You got some UDFAs kind of coming here like, Jaden Roberts that, there's a little clout to them as players. These are guys that do have names. They're known commodities. But nothing's guaranteed here, guys. That's for sure. Tell me, what do you guys think, man, about the young man who came out of the University of North Carolina at about 5'11", if we're being generous, 280 pounds with under 32-inch arm reach, but still came out here with like 10 and like an 1/8-inch hands. Former wrestler, really strong, tough young man that, for the lack of size, still wins at the point of contact. And to be honest, he plays with a type of physicality that you don't see coming. He kind of catches you off guard a little bit with it. I'm curious what you guys think about this player. All right, y'all, if you guys want more videos like this, if you guys want to see me break down more prospects, I'm going to throw a video up here that's been doing really well on YouTube, and I think this is a video that you guys would really like. And then over here, guys, I'll throw something up that's more to do with just like the scheme and kind of get you ready for this, man. I know a lot of you guys are really interested in Sean Mannion. So let's talk about Sean Mannion, and let's talk about his, kind of the actual like kind of foreshadowing he's been giving us about like kind of reduced splits and what he plans to do with those reduced splits, guys. All right, y'all, I appreciate y'all's time and attention. I want to thank you guys so much who've been out here liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel recently. And to all y'all that are hitting that hype button, hey, guys, I really appreciate y'all for doing that. And with that said, guys, hey, I'm out of here.